welcome to Bibliophiles Anonymous, episode 53. I'm Denise.
And I'm Jess.
And tonight we will be talking about Queen of Shadows by Dianne Sylvan. And I have to say, I am really excited that we're talking about this book, because this is one of my favorite book series over the past recent years. And
yes, I've heard you talk about it a lot.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of, if not my ultimate favorite vampire series. But I do want to point out something, because I could have said that we should read the latest one, which just came out this year.
Yeah, you could have done that to me.
Which would have been book 4.
It would have only been fair.
And I could have made you have to read 4 books right in a row, but I didn't do that.
Yeah, I know.
I was nice to you. But yeah, there are 4 books in the series. The most recent one just came out, I think, back in March of this year. And
it comes out in March of next year.
Yeah, so there's a new one soon, and I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. There's so much stuff that was introduced in the 4th book. It's like the whole series kind of took this whole like different twist.
It made a hard left?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, and it was good. I really need to reread all of these again, because, and this has happened every time the new ones come out, I read it so fast because I want to know what happened so badly that I almost don't absorb all of it.
Yeah.
So, but no, I figured that we would just read the first one, and we could talk about it, and we could give you and our listeners just a little taste of what it's all about.
Well, you know, you shouldn't be surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did.
Well, I was hoping that you would. If I know you at all, I'm thinking that this should be a book you enjoy.
Yes. But before we actually talk about it, we should probably, do the standard and talk about what else we're reading.
Oh, okay, yes, we should do that.
We sort of have a layout. We should probably stick with it.
Yeah, okay, just to let everybody know, I don't know why, but I am in a really strange mood tonight.
And I'm jacked up on caffeine. I don't drink caffeine very often, and I've chugged back 2 peace teas in the past, hour and a half, so...
So, yeah, she's all hyped up on caffeine, and I don't know what the heck's going on in my head. Part of it has to do with my husband being out of town. I know that that's part of it, but... So, this is going to be a little bit of a strange show. I just have a feeling. So, everybody be warned.
This is sort of a disclaimer.
It might be highly amusing, so, hey, keep listening and enjoy. So, yeah, what we're currently reading. I am currently reading 2 books. One is called Someday, Someday Maybe by Lauren Graham. And yes, it is the actress Lauren Graham of Gilmore Girls and Parenthood fame. And I will be honest, she's the main reason that I picked up the book in the first place, because I had heard she had written a book, and I just adore her. I just think she's just cute as a button. So, besides that, Gilmore Girls was one of my favorite TV shows of all time.
Gilmore Girls was pretty good. I never made it all the way through it, but I did watch, the first 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, I love that show. Love, love, love it. So, one of the times when I was up in New York, at the Barnes & Noble in Union Square, they had a table that had a whole bunch of copies of this book, and a sticker on the corner that said that it was an autographed copy. So I don't know whether she had done a book signing sometime at that particular Barnes & Noble, because they have a ton of author events just because of where they are.
Right.
But there were a whole bunch of them on this table that all have her signature on it. So I have her signature, even though I've never met her. But it's really cute. It's about a young girl who's trying to become an actress, and she's given herself kind of a deadline of she's going to live in New York for 3 years. And the book opens with 6 months to go before her self-imposed deadline of when she's going to go home and, get married and just live a normal life instead of trying to be an actress. And she's a hoot. It's a really cute and funny story so far. I think I'm about halfway through, but I'm enjoying it a lot. And then the other book that I'm reading is, it's called The Fire in Fiction by Donald Moss, and it's about writing. So I'm not really going to get into it much. But it's more about writing techniques and trying to, bring it to life and bring your characters to life and make people like them, which, since I'm trying to write a book, that's kind of important for me to be doing.
Yeah, probably.
I want you to like my characters and not think they're boring. Right now, they're kind of boring. I'm trying to get them not boring.
I'm working on City of Glass. That's sort of my what I read at work book because it's on my phone.
Right.
And, it's easy to carry my phone in the break room with me and just, pull it up and read during my breaks.
Uh-huh.
So that one may take me a while to finish if that's the only way I read it. Because it's a fairly long book. So, and I plan on starting the second Shadow World book tonight.
Yay.
After we get done reading. Wow. After we get done podcasting. I didn't want to start it because it's like, if I don't read the second one, then I can't mix it up with the first one and give away things that I don't know.
Right.
I decided to wait until after we finish the podcast to start reading book 2, which I have in a box sitting right beside me.
Yeah, a lot of things go a little crazy in book 2.
Yeah, you mentioned.
I will say that book 2 was kind of polarizing for the fan base. Because, now don't do this until after you read it because spoilers ahoy. But the Goodreads reviews on book 2 are just
Scathing?
Some of them are horrible. And I mean, I thought that it was great because with a lot of these books about vampires, you have like the vampire guy, and I mean, it's kind of the Edward Cullen syndrome. They try and make him seem like he's this perfect, godlike creature, and
which is completely unrealistic.
Well, yeah, but a lot of the books kind of try and follow that model, and maybe the only fault that the character has is that he's very, very cocky, but then he's also, this immortal being or whatever. And so you think, well, of course, he's so much better than us. Of course he's going to be, full of himself or whatever. But I've seen very few vampire books that don't do that. Whereas in this case, she's not afraid to make her main vampire dude have some serious flaws.
Well, flaws what make characters interesting.
Yeah.
And, she did kind of hint at some of that in this one. It was never anything overt, but knowing that, thinking back on some stuff, it's like, well, you can kind of sort of tell that that's going to come.
Kind of. But the main thing that part of it comes completely slap dap out of nowhere. I'm just warning you.
But, they're vampires. Yeah, they've lived longer than we have, which means they've had more time to make stupid mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And they've had more time and more baggage that they have to deal with, so they shouldn't be perfect.
Well, and it's like one of the characters says, because one thing, it's kind of just, she says it's basically this understanding among vampires that everybody there is there because they have some kind of a horrible, tragic past.
Right.
You don't end up a vampire by having a fabulous life.
This is true.
Something bad had to happen that made this happen. Now, you can, change your life afterwards. I think, most of the vampires in Austen do pretty well. Most of the time, the events of the books notwithstanding. But it's just kind of understood that you are here because you have gone through some things. And a lot of them don't even talk about it. It's just and trying to press for information is really kind of a faux pas. You just don't do it. But starting at the beginning of the book, our main character here is a girl named Miranda, and she is a musician. She plays the guitar, she plays the piano, and she has these regular gigs at this little bar called Mel's. And she's doing pretty good for herself, but she's also got some pretty severe problems going on.
Yeah.
She has, I don't even know exactly what to call it, powers or talents, however you
very
call
strong
it.
empathy.
Yes. She can sense the emotions and the thoughts of people around her. And it's part of what has made her a successful musician, because she can not only sense the emotions, but she can kind of change them and control them to a certain extent. And
Which
she
pretty standard if you've read any, like high fantasy, classic fantasy, that's a pretty standard definition of what the bardic gift
right.
is being able to affect people's emotions through music.
Right, and because she uses that to make sure that all of the people love listening to her, basically. But it's kind of taken over, and now she can't shut out any of basically the voices in her head. She can sense everything about every thought, every feeling, and being in a major city, it's really overwhelming.
Right. To the point where she's like drinking herself senseless every night.
Yeah, and I think she's on a couple of different prescriptions. I think she mentioned Xanax, a couple of others, but so she's not living very well, to put it mildly. No. And just even going out to the store is challenging because she doesn't want to be around people. So she tries to do it like really, really, really late at night. So there's less people around, so maybe she doesn't get bombarded by everything. And one night she accidentally runs into this guy who is standing behind her in the checkout line buying nothing but a pint of Ben & Jerry's Cherry Garcia ice cream. And
which makes me laugh. Okay, I have to say I am pretty sure Chloe Neal has read Dianne Sylvan.
Okay.
Well, think about the structure of the vampire houses and the whole Master of Vampires thing that Chloe Neal's got going on in hers, except instead of being regional, it's limited to houses.
Right.
It's sort of the same sort of thing. And they both like to throw Ben & Jerry's in there.
Well, Ben & Jerry's is good stuff.
It really is. But still, I mean, I think it was the first book of the Chicagoland Vampires, Mallory and Merritt are eating Chunky Monkey.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I read that book, I get a craving for Chunky Monkey.
Well, actually, I think the Chicagoland Vampires, I think, came out first.
Okay, well then maybe Dianne Sylvan read Chloe Neal.
I don't know.
Either way.
Yeah, there is some crossover of ideas. Yeah. I mean, not that doesn't
Which
happen.
I'm fine with. They're different enough to be interesting.
Oh yeah, there's definite differences. Because to me, the Shadow World version of it is more of like a vampire government, as opposed to. See, I didn't really think of the houses in Chicagoland Vampires as being a system of government. It was more like, I mean, you had whatever that big governing council was, but they weren't usually. Yeah, but they weren't usually there as much.
The butthead.
Yes, that would be them. But I mean, with the primes, and they deal with the local police department and the local governments, and they've always been known to certain people. They've never been in hiding completely.
Right.
The people, certain groups of people in authority have always known that they were there, whereas the Chicagoland Vampires, they all just sort of came out, and everybody all at once knew about them. So yeah, like you said, there's a lot of things that are similar, and there's a lot of things that are different. But there is definitely some crossover things there. But anyway, so you have Miranda who has these serious issues, and she's pretty sure she's going nuts.
Well, you think so?
Well, yeah, I would. And then after one of the shows, something pretty horrible happens to her. She gets attacked and beaten up and raped, and something inside her just completely loses control, and she ends up actually killing her attackers by, I don't even know exactly how she did it, but she described it as she could just kind of see like these strings like holding them together, and she just like reached out and snapped them, like mentally or emotionally or however you want to describe it. And there
Right.
was like 4 men who attacked her, and she killed all of them just by using this supernatural power that she has. And the guy who she had seen at the convenience store ended up kind of following her because he saw these guys and could tell that they were not uh, good people. And he rescues her and takes her to, well, she doesn't know where he takes her to, but that's when she finds out that she's among the vampires now.
Yeah.
And
So she really starts thinking she's going crazy.
well, yeah. Uh, so she finds out that the guy who had rescued her, well, she pretty much rescued herself, but the one who's taking care of her, his name is David Solomon, and he lives in this huge house that's somewhere out in the country. And she doesn't know this takes place in Austin, Texas, and so she's not sure exactly where she is, but it's nice and it's quiet, and she realizes all of a sudden that, yeah, it's quiet. She can't hear all of the emotions inside her head anymore. And it's wonderful, but kind of scary at the same time.
Right.
And that's when she really finds out that, uh, David is a vampire, and he's not just a vampire, he's the most powerful vampire in the area. Uh, and so we probably need to just talk a little bit about, I guess, the system and the way things work. Uh, the vampires are set up kind of in these regions, and the one that David's in charge of, he's called the Prime, and he is over the southern United States. And the kind of the system is you have the Prime, and the way that Primes get selected, usually they're defeated or killed, and then someone else takes over. But they have these necklaces, and it's called a signet. And the signet has this big stone, and it kind of is illuminated from the inside. I mean, it's very, there's a magical component here.
Right.
More so than just, they're vampires and they're supernatural beings, so of course there's some sort of magic. But it's more than that, because you've got this kind of magical component, you have this supernatural component, you have this, psychic ability kind of thing. And on top of all of that, you also have David, who is a PhD from MIT and is this major, like, technology geek. It's the weirdest combination, and it's so cool.
Yeah.
I love it. It's such a funny, because usually you have the vampires and they're very traditional because they're so much older and it's hard for them to modernize sometimes. But he was just like, nope, we've got all of this technology, we're doing all these things to monitor the shadow world.
Yeah, I'm going to drag you kicking and screaming into the 21st century.
Yeah, whether you want to or not. And it was so funny to me. I don't know why, but he is also not as much an empath, although he has a little bit, but he has a lot of these psychic abilities as well. And he lets Miranda know that he is shielding her so that she doesn't get all of this outside stuff coming in.
Right. Which is very helpful for her being able to, heal and get over.
Right. I mean, because she's hurt physically, she's obviously hurt mentally and emotionally. I mean, she was pretty badly attacked. I mean, it was a pretty brutal scene. I'm not gonna deny it.
Yeah.
If you're at all sensitive about that sort of thing, just skip that part and know what happened.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't pull any punches for that scene. But while she's staying at the Haven, that's the name of the kind of headquarters. You meet a whole bunch of other characters. One of the characters is Faith, and I love her. She's feisty, is what she is, and she doesn't take crap from anybody,
including David. which amuses me to no end. She's kind of there to keep him on the ground and not let his ego get the best of him,
Right. Well,
as every very old, very powerful vampire needs.
well, because, and again, the structure of the way that this is set up, you have the Prime, who's chosen by a signet. There is also a female component to the signets, which is the Queen. And right now, David doesn't have a queen. The other necklace has never woken up for anybody else. And then you have the elite, which are kind of almost like the ruling class, sort of. They're chosen to work underneath the Prime so that he can help maintain order throughout the rest of Shadow World.
And they're kind of exactly what they say. They're the elite fighting force. They're the best of the best of the best.
Yeah, and you get to see kind of their tryout a little bit, and they're incredibly skilled fighters, and there's this whole process they have to go through, and I liked that scene too, but that's a little bit later. But Faith's position is she is David's second. So she's kind of second in command since there's no queen. If there was a queen, then the queen would be second in command. But they all have numbers. So the Prime is star 1 and Faith is star 2.
No, she's star 3.
Oh, she's star 3. The queen should be star 2. That's right. Sorry. And then there's other numbers.
Miranda asks her, why are you star 3? Who's star 2?
Yeah, shouldn't you be star 2?
Nope, that's reserved for the queen, which we don't have.
Right.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, okay, I don't think there's anybody who starts off reading these who doesn't realize that Miranda and David are going to end up together.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty obvious from the outset.
Well, it's pretty obvious from the cover of the book, okay?
This is in the title of the book.
Yeah, so it's not really a spoiler to say that in the end of this book, Miranda's going to end up getting turned into a vampire, and she's going to end up David's queen.
Which, that was, like, my favorite part of the book.
Well, because they have this weird other group that supported the old Prime. And they are causing a lot of trouble. Because part of the reason was because the old Prime, his name was Oren, and he didn't really impose a lot of rules. And so one of the things that David did was you're not allowed to just feed off of humans. It has to, and kill them. It has to be done very carefully. And, humans are not just there for food. And
humans are not cattle.
Right. And a lot of the vampires think that way. And so that was one thing that David came in and changed because it was causing it was chaos. And so one of the main things that the elites do is they go on all these patrols and try and make sure that these rogue vampires who are not following the new rules are apprehended and executed most of the time. But there is a group of almost like religious zealots in a way. Because a lot of the people that they were attacking, they were specifically attacking gay people or other people that they just thought didn't fit into their belief system. And it takes a while to figure out, but they figure it out that it's this group called the Blackthorn. And in the meantime, Miranda is still at the Haven and she's still recovering, but there have been people who have infiltrated the Haven and who have attacked her or threatened to, and so it's becoming much harder for her to stay there. And so David starts training her to be able to shield herself and to control her empath capabilities so that she can go home.
Right. Which neither one of them that's not what either one of them actually want.
No, they just feel like that's the right thing. And this is, I think, the part where you just really wanted to smack David upside the head.
Yeah, pretty much. I was just like, oh my god, you're an idiot. But then again, you're a man, vampire or not.
Well, and I mean, Miranda was kind of in denial too, but she had a better reason to be. You know, she was still trying to recover from everything that had happened to her. But I love the quote that you sent me on Facebook that was, she still hadn't decided whether it was weirder that he was a vampire or that he could move things with his mind. Oh yeah, by the way, David is also telekinetic. Actually, the weird thing was that she now had a relativity scale for weirdness, and that just being a vampire wasn't automatically at the upper limit of that scale.
Yeah, I love that.
Which you gotta admit, she has a point.
Yeah, she does.
Um,
But yeah, I mean, I didn't want to smack her because, like you said, you know, she was getting over being raped, and you know, that's a big step for a lot of people who have been through that, being ready for, you know, that kind of relationship again.
right.
So, I mean, she was still dealing with some stuff, but she knew. I mean, as evidenced by the note that she left him, she knew. He was trying to pretend like it wasn't there. He was just trying to stick his fingers in his ears and go, la, 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 la. When every vampire in the Haven is talking about, you know, oh, she's the queen.
I mean, they were taking bets.
Yeah.
There was a pool going on about how long it was going to be before he turned her into a vampire. And I mean, they even talked briefly about the process, and that there were basically two ways to do it. And one way was much easier, and you basically slept through the change, sort of.
Yeah.
And then the other way is a lot harder and usually a lot more violent and isn't typically done purposely.
Yeah. Well, you know, of course that's the way she had to go.
Right.
Accidentally, because shit happened.
Well, yeah. So she finally is able to shield herself and control some of these gifts that she has, and learn to see them as gifts instead of just this weird thing that's happening to her that she can't control and, you know, is more scary than anything else. So they set her up with a new apartment, and she goes to live there, and she has to try and put her life back together. But and I love because she got so used to the way that the Haven was set up that it was always dark, and they had these blinds, these metal blinds that would go over the windows so that sunlight couldn't come in. And that when she got to the apartment, she's like, everything was so bright that she had to actually try and like cover up the windows with like cardboard to try and block out as much of the sunlight, because she had just gotten so used to the way things were living,
Right.
you know, by vampire standard time.
And she couldn't sleep at night. She had to sleep during the day.
Yeah, her whole time schedule got messed up.
But yeah, it was she hated it at first. I mean, she didn't like being there, but she finally manages to pull herself together, and she starts talking to her friend Kat again, and she starts playing music again. And
starts being successful.
Yeah, very. And all the while, David has still got his fingers in his ears going, la, 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 la. You know, he's all, oh no, she can't be my queen. I can't be in love with her because she's human and I'm a vampire, and this is just not possible, and this can't happen, and I'm going to stay away from her. And I'm just like, you're an idiot.
Well, and part of it too was he was sitting there and saying, no, really, this is for the best. She is better off, you know, living her life and having her music and doing all of this. And you have to remember, his life was not easy because you had this other group of people that was trying to kill him. So he had it in his head that she was safer far away. Which, okay, attention all book, movie, story heroes. Sending off your girlfriend, wife, significant other, love interest, sending them away for their own good to protect them never works.
No.
Ever.
And see, here's the thing that made it really, this is why I wanted to smack him, because it was talking about how a prime and his queen were stronger together because their powers would work together and make them both stronger. And I'm like, you're training her, you're shielding her, you know how good your shield is, and she's not supposed to be able to get anything from you through it, yet she is.
Right.
That should have been a big clue. She may be human now, but that can be rectified.
Yeah.
The fact that you're shielding her with everything you have and shielding her from you, but she's still picking things up from you, should be a clue that there's more to this than just she's a human and you're a vampire and this can't happen.
Right.
That should have been a clue. It's not that simple.
Well, but they have to make it that simple, because otherwise it would be a boring book. But there's a couple of other characters I wanted to talk about briefly, and they're not in this book as much, but I promise they will be in other books, much more, specifically book 2. But when you're learning more about what David does and his responsibilities as the Prime, you learn that he was originally out in California as the second to the Prime out there, and his name is Devin. And
I love Devin and Jonathan.
Devin is awesome, and basically, if they ever do a movie version of this, which they would completely ruin it, I know this, but if they ever did, Adam Lambert needs to play Devin. We said that about Magnus Bane from the City of Bones. He would have been a good Magnus Bane, but he needs to play Devin. And the thing that is funny is that, and I think you had mentioned this too when we were talking about it, but Miranda asks, well, does Devin have a queen? And David said, no, he has a consort. And Miranda's like, well, what's the difference between a queen and a consort? And he says, well, if you called Jonathan a queen, he might punch you in the face.
Yeah.
Or something like that. She's like, oh, they make gay primes? Well, one, at least.
Yeah, I love that part.
Yeah, well, at least one. Because, see, that's the thing, is that the vampires don't make the primes. It's the signets that choose you to become the prime.
Right.
So you can end up with, a prime that everybody hates. Now, most likely, if everybody hates them, they're not going to end up being prime for very long.
Because somebody's going to come along and kill them and force the signet to choose somebody else.
Yeah. But, it's not an automatic, it's not like they're voting and the favorite wins. It can be somebody that nobody knows. It can be somebody that everybody hates. So I think she said in the next book, book 5, which comes out next year, we actually learn more about the signets. I can't wait.
Because I've only read the first one, and there wasn't a whole lot, but there was something in there about how, the signets, the fact that the signets were as powerful as they were, they had to have been created by something that was more powerful than the vampires.
Yeah, and you get a little bit of that in book 4, I think. But that's, again, I need to reread them because I plowed through book 4 so fast. I really need to go back and reread it when I have time, because there was a ton of stuff in there that I don't even think I completely absorbed.
So yeah, I'm very curious about the signets, because when they said that, I'm like, that's a very good point. Something made these. These didn't just appear.
Right.
Because, they're gemstones. They look like rubies that have been fashioned into necklaces. That doesn't just happen.
Right. Well, they're not all red.
Oh.
I think that the California ones are blue. They're different colors.
Oh. Interesting.
The ones that David has are red, but not all of them are.
But yeah, so these Blackthorn people, you find out that one of them was supposed to have been Oren's queen.
Well,
or
that's what she thought.
Or tried to make herself, or...
She wanted to be Oren's queen, but the signet never woke up for her. And she didn't really like that very much.
Well, she was just a teensy bit on the insane side.
Just a little bit, slightly.
Just a whole lot.
Yeah. But yeah, you find out that the leader of the Blackthorns is this woman named Ariana. And now David, being his awesome tech savvy self, comes up with this way to basically monitor where all the vampires are throughout Austin. And it has something to do with their different body temperature or something. I don't remember all of the details.
Yeah, I love it when he says that there was a couple of glitches with a large dog and an immortal midget.
I want to know who the immortal midget was. I mean, what the heck?
This person needs to come back.
We need to have a whole, like, one of those little novellas that sometimes they make of the immortal midget. Who the heck is
Yeah, a
that?
little offshoot. We want to know more about this immortal midget. Yeah, that was so funny. It's like, there's 98% success rate. There were a couple of glitches with a large dog and an immortal midget, and I was just like, okay.
Yeah, it's that is just one of the things I love about these books is because there is such personality and humor, even though you have these horrible and serious things that are going on. I mean, people are being murdered left and right, and I mean, basically the whole shadow world is at war. And
Yeah.
it's still funny as heck.
Yeah.
I love that.
When authors write like that and they say things like that, I'm like, I want to hang out with this person because she thinks like I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And she would have to be amusing to have a conversation with if she can come up with this kind of thing and put it in a book.
well, we both follow Dianne Sylvan on Twitter.
Right.
And I mean, you can just tell from if you don't follow her on Twitter, follow her on Twitter because she's really fun to follow, and she's just every bit as quirky and sarcastic and snappish sometimes on Twitter as she is in her books. This is not the first books that I ever read of hers. She actually wrote uh, two books before she started writing this series. They were both nonfiction. One was on neo-paganism, and the other was actually about body image and kind of a earth-centered mindset towards looking at body image. It's hard to explain. It's a really good book, though. I highly recommend it. That one was called The Body Sacred, and the neo-pagan one was called The Circle Within. So, just a slight tangent there, but these aren't the only books that she's written. And her nonfiction is every bit as entertaining as her fiction is. But anyway, uh, so yeah, the main person who is leading the Blackthorn, her name is Ariana, and they have finally figured out. They've been questioning people and um, going through some pretty severe interrogations, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Interrogations usually end with beheadings.
yeah, and so they finally figure out where these people are. In the meantime, I do have to say, Miranda was not just sitting back and deciding to not do anything. And this is one of the things I really, really liked about Miranda is because once she finally was able to heal, she didn't just say, well, okay, that's it. Because Faith was kind of keeping tabs on her and coming to see her from time to time, seeing how she was doing. Uh,
Yeah.
and Miranda said, look, I know that there's a whole bunch of stuff going on and that I could potentially be a target. I want to learn how to defend myself. And Faith introduces her to this other character named Sophie, who worked for a group called, was it the Red Shadow?
Yeah, the Red Shadow. Which, again, Chloe Neal reference, she has the Red Guard.
The Red Shadow is completely different, though.
Yeah, still, the names
Um,
are. And I don't. Keep in mind, I've only read the first book. I don't really know anything about the Red Shadow
I know,
yet.
I know. Um, but anyway, so you don't find out exactly what the Red Shadow is, except that they're known for being pretty good fighters. Okay, and I love Sophie too. I mean, she looks like this little teeny tiny thing. She was turned into a vampire when she was 15, so, she never fully grew up, really, physically.
Right.
But don't even try to fight her because you will be dead within seconds.
You will lose.
Yeah. And so she does not take crap from anybody. and she's not entirely enthusiastic about the idea of having to try and train a human, but she kind of owes Faith a favor, so she does it, and basically spends a good portion of the time kicking Miranda like from one side of her little studio to the other, because I mean Miranda is physically, just from being a human as compared to a vampire, she's physically inferior, but she's also not in the best shape because she hasn't been taking care of her body very much for years. And so she eventually gets, a lot stronger. And she's still not quite on par with vampire strength, but she's pretty good for a human. And in the meantime, they have tracked down where most of the Blackthorn are, and they had been hanging out in this house, and they had humans that they were basically just feeding on over and over again. And you find this, that they were also keeping captive this young vampire girl, and turns out she's a Blackthorn too. She's Bethany, Ariana's sister, and Ariana hated her sister and basically treated her like she would treat a human, and they were feeding on her too. So she's very, very weak, very, very battered and broken, and so David brings her back to the Haven, keeps her under lock and key and surveillance and everything else, but questions her and tries to learn more information. But he thinks that the situation is now under control because the rest of the Blackthorn that he knows of have been wiped out.
Yeah, burnt to the ground.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's not that easy.
Of course not, because that would make the book end 5 chapters too early.
Yeah, so he sends Faith to pull us some records on the Blackthorns.
And their connection to Oren.
Right. And she finds this journal that belonged to Oren. And she's flipping through it, and she's like, oh, I should have, David translate this. And she gets to the back where there's a sketch.
Yeah, apparently he was an artist in his spare time when he wasn't being evil.
Of Ariana wearing the Queen's signet. And guess what? Ariana's not Ariana.
No, because
Bethany is Ariana.
The picture is very definitely of Bethany, but it says Ariana.
And Faith has an oh crap moment.
Yep.
And this is about the time that Ariana has snuck out of Haven and is trying to kill Miranda.
In the meantime, David's finally come to his senses before this, and has decided that, he does love Miranda, and she just might be worth, going through all of the trouble of falling in love with a human for. About time.
Yeah, for real. And, she's told him, look, I want to be a vampire. I'm sure of this. I'm absolutely positively sure. So basically, they make plans that they're going to bring her back to Haven. They're going to turn her into a vampire. Well, things get a little hot and heavy. Slightly. And by a little, I mean a lot.
Yeah.
And David ends up giving her some of his blood, and he gives her a little too much.
They overdid it slightly.
Yeah, a little bit.
They had a good time. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, very good time. Which, in the long run, this ended up saving her life.
True.
So Ariana tries to kill her, stabs her in the heart, throws her in the river. But she doesn't die because she's still hopped up on David's blood. And this is the hard way to become a vampire. You take in their blood, and then you're killed, and then you go through the change very painfully.
Yeah.
And that's basically what happened to Miranda.
And it was horrible because there was this big fire in Miranda's apartment, and David knows what happened, and he is positive that Miranda is dead, that she's gone. And Devin and Jonathan both come out to visit him, and it was just so heartbreaking because you learn in the beginning, or not in the beginning, but earlier, that when a Prime and the Queen are bonded like that, it's more than just like a simple connection. And even when they get married, which they often do, it's more than that. They are tied together by this weird signet magic. And so if something happens to the Prime or the Queen, if one of them dies,
The other
the other
one,
one dies too. And in that fact, that happened to the previous prime in California. There was another kind of war that happened over there, and somebody got the queen, and the other prime just basically fell over dead. Nobody touched him. And then Devin went to, remove the signet and put it away, and all of a sudden it started flashing like crazy and be like, oh, I guess I'm the prime now. Well, it's okay. But
Yep, but your turn.
okay. It's just, that's just how it happens. And so David, when Devin and Jonathan were there, he was like, we're not supposed to survive when this happens, because he already felt that bond to Miranda, and that's he said, I'm not supposed to still be here if she's not here. And it's so heartbreaking. And even though you have a pretty good idea that, there's 4 more books in this series, Miranda's not dead.
Yeah.
Considering that she's on every single book cover, including book 5, which looks awesome, by the way. Just when you get a second, don't read any of the synopses of the books, but just look at the covers because they're pretty.
Oh, I saw it on Fantastic Fiction.
Oh, it's nice. It looks really, really nice. But anyway, so that she's not gone completely. Again, that's not a spoiler.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Her, we kind of wouldn't have a series.
no. We would just have one book and it would just be really sad.
Yeah. Nobody wants that.
No, not at all. So anyway, Miranda makes her way sort of back to her friend Kat's apartment and basically freaks Kat completely out because she said she was afraid. She knew what happened as soon as she woke up and she found herself in the lake or the river. And she's like, okay, I must be going through this whole vampire change. It's not fun. And, oh, look, the sun's going to be coming up anytime now. I need to get inside. So she makes her way to Kat's apartment, and she's basically saying, okay, there's no windows or anything in your inside bathroom, your spare bathroom. She's like, I'm going to be in there. Don't come in at all. And she spends several days curled up on Kat's bathroom floor, basically having her entire body rearranged.
Yeah, it just sounded unpleasant.
Well, I don't think it's supposed to be pleasant.
At all.
No. But eventually she makes it through, and now she is a vampire, and she is not happy with the way things are going.
So she takes matters into her own hands.
She does, and this is one of the things, she is definitely on the list of kick-ass heroines, because now that she's was already a powerful human with all of her psychic gifts, and now that she's a vampire, she's done with this. She is just done with being a victim and having other people having to be strong for her. And I love the first thing she does is she goes to see Sophie. And Sophie told her right away when she first started training with her, she's like, don't get messed up with the signets. It's too much, and I've seen primes rise and fall, and guess what? I'm still here. So, just don't get mixed up with them because you're only going to get in trouble. And Miranda shows up there and she's like, okay, I don't care what you think. She's like, this is what we're going to do. We are going to go, we are going to arm ourselves, and we're going to head to the Haven. Now, come on. And I love...
think he kind of frog marched her out at sword point.
Yeah. And I love Sophie. She was like, immortality becomes you. You look good. But you are not heading out in that outfit. Sophie has some opinions. That's one of the things I liked about her.
Yeah. So they basically show up at Haven and save the day.
Pretty much.
And I loved it. Because Ariana had showed back up. And she's trying to kill David and trying to take the signet. And, she's got the signet. And David's is flashing. And the signet is flashing.
Yeah,
and
because she stole the Queen's signet. And she saw it flashing, and she was like, oh, I guess this means that I'm supposed to be your queen. This is going to be fun.
And then it's so funny. She puts it on, and it goes dark.
Yeah, it's like, oh, maybe it's not you.
So Miranda basically politely walks up and chops her head off, picks up the signet, puts it on, and said, "I'm your queen. Any questions?"
Yep. and that's when you want to cheer. You're like, yeah.
Yeah, and David, he is standing there looking like somebody has just hit him in the back of the head with a 2x4.
Well, because he thinks she's dead.
And here she has saved his life.
She has saved his life. She has taken over the signet for herself, and she's just like, look, this is the way it's going to be. Anybody want to argue? And there's not that many Blackthorn left, and I think the ones that were left were just kind of gobsmacked by everything that happened. And everybody else just starts cheering. They're all happy. So, but yeah, that's basically the end of the book. And we kind of gave away the ending, but as I said, it's not that much of a surprise, really.
No, I mean, like you said, considering the title of the book.
The title of the book and the cover shows Miranda wearing the signet, okay? So,
yeah. You know it's going to get there.
Yeah, it's just the manner in which it gets there. And the manner in which it gets there is awesome.
Yes, I'm serious. I love that, her attitude. She walks in, cuts the woman's head off, puts the signet on, like she knows it's going to choose her.
Yeah, it's just, this is the way it is. She's not going to take any crap anymore now that she's a vampire.
Right. She puts it on, "I'm your queen, any questions?"
Yeah.
It just dares somebody to say something. And I love that Faith is like, I'm not going to say it was a betting pool, but so-and-so owes me $20. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm probably going to start book 2 tonight.
Good. You need, when you finish book 2, or let me just say, when you get to
a certain point
in book 2, you will know when you get there.
Oh, I'm sure you will get Facebook messages.
I need them because I need to see your reaction. Because
it may be 2 o'clock in the morning. You may wake up and have them in your inbox tomorrow.
Okay, I've done that before. But yeah, you will know of what I speak when you get there. So
should I live tweet this one?
Oh, that would be fun.
As I'm reading, oh my god.
Yes, by all means. If you feel so inclined. I live tweeted reading one of the Chloe Neal books, and it's time consuming. It's not the most efficient of means of reading a book, but it's fun to do. But it is hard because you don't want to spoil things, but at the same time you're like, whoa, didn't see that coming.
Yeah. I may try to do that. I may do that. You will definitely have to check my Twitter.
Okay.
Tomorrow and see if I decided to go with that.
But even if you don't, you have to send me a message when you get to that part.
Well, I'm sure I will.
And again, you will know what that part is.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll know when I get there because your phone, your Facebook messages will probably explode.
Like I said, it kind of, I mean, the first book, most people really, really enjoyed the first book. The second book, like I said, it turned a lot of people off just because they were expecting David to be this perfect paragon of a person. And he's not. He has a lot of things in his past, things that we haven't even gone to yet. That, it's bad enough when you're dealing with a human person and they have a past. David has like 400 years of past.
Yeah.
Isn't he from like 16 something? Can't remember exactly. But, he has a lot more past to go through.
Yeah.
than most people would. And there are some things that Miranda is going to have to deal with. And it's not easy. And again, it was something, to me, it didn't bother me at all, because to me, it was very realistic. And I appreciated that. I'm sick of these characters that are just like, just because they're a vampire, that means that they have to be this perfect person and their relationship has to be this perfect relationship. No. They're still people, and they have a lot of issues that they have to work through.
They got baggage, just like the rest of us.
Yeah, oh, yeah. A matching set. So, anyway, you have to let me know when you get to that part.
I will.
But we're going to go ahead and wrap this up now. And I think you can tell that we both really like this book.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of this whole series, so I would recommend reading all of them, especially since the new one comes out next year. I cannot wait. It's gonna be awesome.
I have book 2, and then I have 3 and 4 as ebooks. So
Okay. Well, get reading then. This is
I
kind of like you were with the Chicagoland Vampires. You're like, I have somebody I can talk to about these now because I made you
yes.
read them.
It's like, oh my God, you have to read these. Of course, I kind of cheated when I got you to read them.
Yeah, see,
And it was like,
I was
see,
nice.
I got this ARC for us. So, you need to read these first 6.
Now you see how nice I am to you? I say the new one's coming out and then the other new one just came out. So let's read the first one and get everybody excited about it.
Yes, well, see, you weren't working on quite the tight schedule that I was working on. It was just like, oh my God, we actually got an ARC and it's here, and oh my God.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But
And I did promise that I would try not to do that anymore.
well, I mean, if you have to, I can manage. It was just a lot of reading in a very short period of time.
True.
The number of times you've done that to me, I am crediting that for being so close to my reading goal this early in the year.
This is probably true.
Between Chicagoland Vampires and the Mythos Academy series, that put a nice huge chunk into my 70 books this year goal.
You really did.
And
Of
it's
course,
only October.
my goal is 60, and I'm at like 49,
Oh,
48.
you can still do it.
Oh yeah, especially if I read all 4 of these and finish the Cassandra Clare ones. I really want to finish those though because I want to read the
Oh,
Princess.
yeah.
Clockwork Princess. I haven't read it yet. I have it, but I haven't read it yet. So since I started rereading them, I'm like, I might as well reread them all
Yeah, of course.
before I read Clockwork Princess. So, and City of Heavenly Fire comes out next year.
That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, my head's going to explode. My head's been trying to explode, and ever since I read City of Lost Souls.
Well, do you want to go ahead and next week talk about our anticipated books for next year?
We could do that.
I'm trying to remember what our official topic was going to be.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
You're the one that's been doing this whole let's have a schedule thing. I just kind of follow along.
Okay. No, next week we were originally going to talk about our favorite book-related websites.
We can do that later.
We can do that later. So next week instead, we're going to switch it up just a little bit, and we're going to talk about our favorite anticipated books for next year.
Most anticipated books of 2014.
Yeah, because I cannot believe it's October. It is just going by so fast.
I'm still trying to figure out where August went, and now it's October.
I know. So
I'm just like, I was not even used to September yet. And now it's October.
I know.
And it gives us 2 months left of this year. And oh my God, we're already putting We've been putting Christmas stuff out at the dollar store for like 2 weeks.
It's crazy. I don't know where the year's going. So I'm glad I've been reading as much as I have been because otherwise I wouldn't be anywhere near getting my goal.
We got Christmas trees on our trucks like 3 weeks ago.
Oh gosh.
And I'm like, we haven't even had Halloween yet. Why are we putting out Christmas?
Earlier and earlier every year. It's crazy.
It really is. It really is.
Oh. Anyway, so to wrap up, we like the Dianne Sylvan books. We recommend them. So go and check them out. And next week we will talk about our most anticipated books for 2014, which just sounds weird. I don't know why. But anyway.
Well, let's just be glad that the world didn't end in December of last year like everybody was saying it was going to. I was like, if the world ends before I get to see The Hobbit and finish reading The Mortal Instruments, I'm going to be pissed.
Oh, gosh. Well, there was a new Hobbit trailer that came out, part 2.
I watched it. Oh, and the Tolkien Professor, they did a Riddles in the Dark episode where they went through the new trailer, and the Tolkien Professor managed to somehow delete the entire thing before it could get uploaded. So they're redoing it tomorrow night. So guess where I'm going to be tomorrow night? In front of my computer, logged in, listening to them discuss the new trailer, because it should be amusing, because especially when Corey gets Trish and Dave on there with him, it gets kind of funny. It's like listening to us.
Well, we might talk a little bit about the new trailer next episode too.
Yeah.
Because it's not an anticipated book, but it's a pretty highly anticipated movie. So.
Yeah. And, you know, we can throw some of that book to movie adaptation criticisms that we like to do.
Yeah. But anyway, so what I was going to say is that if there are any books that you are really looking forward to that are coming out next year, let us know, and we can read some of them out on next week's episode. So you can email us, bibliophiles.podcast@gmail.com, or send them to us on Twitter @bibanonpodcast. Now, if you start live tweeting the book 2, are you going to do it on your Twitter, or are you going to do it on the podcast Twitter?
I'm going to do it on my Twitter.
Okay. So, if you want to see what her reactions are to the thing that's going to happen,
you should probably follow me.
You should follow Jess. She is @Cirrus_of_Kel, when there's underscores between the words.
Yeah.
So it's Cirrus_of_Kel. And find out what she thinks of book 2, because I'm looking forward to finding out. And unless, if you don't want to be spoiled, then maybe kind of kick back. Because, like I said, the first book, you can't really spoil it because it's kind of obvious where it's going to go. It's just interesting to see how they get there.
Right.
There's lots of things that could spoil book 2.
I will try not to post too many spoilers. I will try to mostly just post my thoughts as to what's happening, like, oh my god, what the crap.
Okay. Okay, that works.
I will try to keep the spoilers to a minimum.
Okay, that works.
I make no promises when I get to whatever this is that I'm supposed to be getting to, that's supposed to be, quite the momentous event. But I will try my best to keep the spoilers to a minimum.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, check those out. Check these books out, and visit our website, www.bibliophiles-anonymous.com, and that is where you will get our latest episodes, our latest book reviews, and any other news that we want to share.
Which reminds me, I got a book review I need to post.
Oh, well, there you go. So
I'll do that tomorrow.
Keep an eye out for that. But in any case, we will see you next week for our most anticipated books of 2014.
Yay!
So thanks for listening, everybody, and we will see you then.
All right,
Bye.
bye.